Well, we are officially gathered here today to talk all things card party. We wanted to give a debrief to all of our awesome Ecamm customers so that they could see what an incredibly cool event this was and what went into all of the behind the scenes because there was a lot on this. So I wanted to kick it off, Dan, because we have you here hanging out with us in this session with the kind of behind the scenes. So do you want to give us a kind of brief what is card party, and then what was your initial vision behind the live stage? What did you and the team really want to accomplish with this?
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me on. Yeah, Card Party is this thing that Pat Flynn has conceived. We have a channel called Deep Pocket Monster. I'm the producer on that channel, and the goal is, everything's online, right? We have these communities that are online, and it's amazing. But how do we bring everyone together, right? Everyone to be able to enjoy both fans and people who watch not only just Deep Pocket Monster, but all creators within the Pokemon card space. So Card Party is a way to bring creators within the Pokemon card space and fans together in this one space, as well as having an expo with vendors and having shows and just being able to put on a fun weekend that kind of feels like camp. Like that's been the key word that I think everyone feels like you're a kid again going to camp. And this is for adults, for families, for collectors of Pokemon cards and all that kind of stuff. So that's really kind of a roundabout way of saying what Card Party is. And I've always had this dream since we started the first Card Party, which obviously we've had three so far, of having this kind of game day style live stream that would be something that you would see before a big, sport event, a World Series, something like that, where you see like these commentators talking outside the stadium or even within, an arena or something. I'm a big pro wrestling fan, so there's a lot of that in pro wrestling as well. So I love to bring things from the pro wrestling world into this with just how things are done. And so having a live stream that takes place brings you into the action within the expo hall, seeing all the stuff happening that those who couldn't make it or can't be there, or maybe even those who are there, being able to get a perspective on the stage, hearing from other creators who are there, attendees who are there, vendors who are there, um, getting that live in the moment feel for not just a few minutes or a post recorded video, but something that's live and in the moment for a number of hours is that was kind of the exciting idea behind doing this live stream.
I love it. I think it's so many events over the last like few years, particularly ones that, I mean that we've been involved with or associated with, have not quite been able to nail that. So like we've certainly been at events where we've been, helping to produce some of the session content for virtual viewers, or we've done the interviews with people like after they've gotten off the stage or in and around the actual event experience. But we've never like, I love that this is intentionally not a virtual version of the event. This is like in many ways its own experience that is really just for the at-home viewers, which I think is really special and fun, and it really made this an awesome experience and perfect for us to be involved with. So I'm so happy that Ecamm was part of it. It was a fun challenge for the team because it's not like anything we've ever done before. I mean, Doc, you've helped, together we've been to like, I don't even want to know how many different shows, and we've set up all these different stages, but this one was like really different. How did you come across or think through like the initial, what are we going to do for all of this? How are we going to build this out and plan this out?
It was a combination of, okay, so I've done these type of events for like actual television. It's really weird to say that. That's not in a dismissive sense. It's just that TV is slightly different. You got a whole bunch of things you need to do. And like I've done it for sumo tournaments and for what we would consider Grammys, but in Hawaii we have our own version of the Grammys for local music artists. And you basically are running sort of sound to truck or running picture to truck, which means it goes to the satellite so they can send it out to wherever they need to send it. And so I thought about it from that standpoint, but like, how can we do this, sort of in a live stream fashion? And the two things that I knew that we needed to nail was constant communication, which I think is heavily overlooked by people who try to do this thing. And we tried a couple different resources, and we ended up going to like Cinco headsets, which were just phenomenal, like absolutely phenomenal. The only thing that's hard to get used to if you don't do it every week is remembering to move your mic out of the way when you're talking to somebody else.
We figured
Which is
that
why-
out on the fly.
We yelled at each other a little bit.
you know this already anyway, because when you watch anybody do it, whether it's at a wedding or a show like this, or even at the Wendy's, they always do this when they be like, "What did you need? Extra ketchup? Okay, hold on." So yeah, it's one of those things that just comes from constant use, right? You legit see it in every day of your life, especially if you go to Dunkin's or something. So, yeah, that getting the communication part is right, and whether you need to use something fanciful or just using pen and paper, man. Like the communication side of it is the most important side of it. As long as you can keep yourself, your team, the producers, and the clients all well communicated, everything will be fine. There's no need to panic. But the minute you lose communications, the battlefield is in disrupt once comms go down. and again, that's probably also military experience too, like just knowing that comms has to be the thing. Everything else can be fixed or fall back into place, but comms got to be comms.
Yeah. Well, we knew I knew up front, like when we were starting this and Dan Norton and team came to us with this idea, I was like, okay, this is something we've wanted to do for a really long time. And I've actively avoided doing for a really long time because it's really hard. And it's one of those things where so many different things can go wrong and you need the right team. And we obviously wanted to deliver on a really high level because it's Pat, who we incredibly respect and is one of our Ecamm fan members for the longest time now. So there was so much that went into it, but I knew we needed more help than just Jill and Doc and I. So we definitely immediately thought of Daniel because Daniel's work. Yeah. You've done all of this work in virtual environments where there are like lots of different attendees. There are, there's lots of different things happening. And even more so now that I've seen you do this, like you are the preview mode king. We need to make you like a t-shirt, an Ecamm t-shirt.
Wait, we need to show it. It was just, hold on, wait a second.
Wild, wild,
Yep.
yeah.
I'm not a fat guy in the chair.
Dum dum, dum dum, dum dum, dum dum. I mean, insane.
Yeah, how did you go? I know we were on like 1,000,001 different conversations and Dan and the team did like a really good job of giving us like a run of show. We built out like all the different scenes in Ecamm. We worked really hard kind of thinking through all of that. But what was the most challenging part in actually trying to implement that at the event itself?
I think it was just understanding that no matter what you're building out, no matter what plan you have, it's always going to change last minute. And that's actually the number one reason why I do recommend Ecamm Live. If anybody has ever heard me talk about this, it's like it's easy to create changes on the fly. Now, Katie, you and I, we worked together and figured out all the different scenes. And there's really not a ton of different scenes, right? There's maybe a half a dozen at most. And so that was really all it came down to, is just knowing, generally speaking, those half a dozen scene layouts, and then knowing how on the fly, let's say, for example, we have this 2-up scene that everyone's looking at right now. Maybe it's not always Katie's camera in that side. So how do you on the fly recreate that in terms of maybe throwing in Dan, right? Maybe throwing in somebody else into that scene. And that's, I think, the biggest, I would say, the hurdle when we were all of a sudden, boom, look at that. It's like on the fly, it's just completely changing, right? But when you're doing this live in that event, you realize it's like, oh my gosh, there's another opportunity for us to make this change, make this switch. So you're using preview mode to create those new scenes, those new layouts if you have to. Like, I don't know if Jill, you want to throw yourself in there, but Jill did an amazing job. The entire team did an amazing job, but what Jill did was she had the roving camera. And so she would all of a sudden, let me do this. Let me take this camera out and let me, do all these different things. And then there was this one opportunity, which we didn't even think about, where there was somebody on stage. Remember when the kids went on stage? And all of a sudden we were doing these card unpackings, and it's like, oh, Jill's on there, and she's got the overhead camera that's really just kind of over the shoulder kind of a look. And then with Ecamm Live, I was able to say, oh my gosh, yeah, totally do that. I'm working the preview and I'm creating a brand new scene on the fly using her roving camera video source in a completely different layout. So, you know, it looks seamless on the front end for the users, right? But on the back end, we're just always thinking as a producer, we're like, okay, what's going to look really cool next? And so, you know, I had that wonderful opportunity to actually exercise that at this event, which it was so fun.
When we were talking about doing this event or not, I was like, Katie, we need a producer. We need like you, me, Doc, and we need Daniel. Like there wasn't a choice as to like who else we were going to bring for in-person production. Because I've done a lot of in-person production, but this was just on a level that I wasn't super confident about. And so being able to figure out who all could communicate well, who all had different experiences and different skill sets, and then how we can all highlight, you know, use the best gifts that we all had and work together. I mean, it was really cool. I had seen a lot of the production that you've done, Daniel, but I don't know that I knew how experienced you were with in-person production. And just like between you and Doc, like the encyclopedia of knowledge of gear and Ecamm. And actually, Daniel, can you talk about how like we literally were set to have my handheld camera. So I was going to be on a handheld camera with using HDMI transmitters, and we did all these tests. So we had a camera designated for this. And then Daniel was like, well, it wasn't working. We were getting all this interference. And then we just totally pivoted. Do you want to talk about that? Because I did not believe that switching to Ecamm for Zoom was going to solve the day. I had so much anxiety about it, but you had a plan and it worked. Yes.
Before we switch out of that, I want to set something in stone, because I say this all the time and I think people just think I'm full of it, which is cool. I don't care. This is what, if you only do your scenes when you need to do scenes, you will always struggle.
Yep.
But when you play and you purposefully practice and you do things when you don't need to and you try things when you don't need to, when the time arises, you know how to do it. And what I see, I'm not even going to act like pretend. I'm not even going to hold back the niceties of it all. Too many people only try to produce what they need to produce right when they're ready to go. Yeah. And then they panic because they don't know how to do it. So you have to do the same thing we did when we were kids. When we were kids, you went outside and you practiced how to be doctor or how to be, you know, mom and dad, or how to do whatever. You played, you used your imagination. When the time came for real life, you kind of knew some things what to do, right? And so it's very important that you practice your scene management, your audio levels, record things you don't even need to record, and then when the time comes, you're good to go. And that's why Daniel's good at what he does, because he practices it basically every day.
And break it.
And breaks it.
100%.
Yes.
100%.
Wait, we got to tell
really
Daniel Norton, you need to know that Daniel Chi is known as the guy who breaks everything. But it's great because someone's like, I'm experiencing this. And then Daniel's like, oh, I don't know. And then we walk through all the things and then he tries to break it. And then it's phenomenal for our customer support, for everybody. Like, we need Daniel to break it. But sometimes we're like, Daniel, can you just not come to this one event? Just like... just
but
for
it is,
safeties.
They just don't. They hold back information. Like, hey, we don't want to tell them.
Yeah,
you know,
quiet
I think what Doc is saying is really important. Like, practice in private, so that you can show your perfection in public.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
like,
nice.
you know, we have Dan here who, you know, jumped in every so often, but Dan really didn't see the back end, and he's kind of just hearing it now. Whereas just like, hey, I thought you guys were professionals. Well, we are professionals. Stuff breaks all the time. Things don't occur as how you plan it, and so you have to experience the hard knocks. You have to, you know, get on with friends. You have to like get online, start to do all of those things, but understand that you always have to have a backup plan. What is the plan B? There's always more than one way to feed that cat. And so, you know, we had this idea of, oh, we're going to use a wireless HDMI video transmitter. It's got this much reception, this much range. But we also know that there's only so much bandwidth and frequency. Like just, you know, the combination of all of us together, we know that there's only so much bandwidth and frequency that a wireless device can have. And so if that's the case, what if this doesn't work? You know, because we practiced before all the people came into the room. That wireless HDMI worked without a problem. You went to the other side of this football stadium-sized field, right? And it was no problem. But once people started to come in, it's like, uh-oh, it wasn't even syncing the channels anymore.
Yeah.
Jill had to walk
We had to
outside the room.
leave to reconnect
It wouldn't
them.
sync
know.
next to each other. Like side
Yeah.
by side, they wouldn't sync. If you go out in the hallway, and I think a lot of people forget that, like
Yeah.
these buildings are giant football fields, but it's a metal infrastructure. Like everything in there is metal. It's right next to the ocean and 17 hotels and some military bases and an airport. Like, yo, the signal was like, I don't know what you're doing. I'm on vacation. It's Florida.
Well, and everyone is also on all of their devices. And then there were these huge columns like throughout the building as well. So like it was hilarious that like you were fine until like you got to like a certain column and they were like, no, we don't hear you anymore. It's gone. So it was definitely interesting, the things that you wouldn't immediately think of, right? Like you know, all of a sudden there were 6,500 people in that space, and that was a lot of people to be causing all kinds of interference. So.
And it's not just those pieces, it's, you know, your backup camera equipment, you know, so data is one factor. Oh, by the way, we were live streaming that.
Yep.
You know, the team invested in a very costly, reliable for the most part. But then once everybody started bringing in their cell phones, even that, you know, platform had some challenges. So what did we do? You know, between the combination of Doc and myself, we had 4 or 5 cell phones. Right, just the two of us, and then plus Jill's, plus Katie's, plus all this stuff, and we know that okay, we have this technology available to us. Exactly, right? What do we do now to be able to get these things working? And you always have to plan for the disaster and how do you recover from that. And I mean, at the end of the day, we had all of those things, but there's always ways to improve next times. There's never a situation where I'm not figuring out something brand new,
Right.
and saying, okay, great. You know, that's, to be honest with you, that's the largest room that I've ever been in. But having done tons, you know, I wouldn't say I've done way more virtual productions than in-person productions, but in-person productions, it's the same stuff. But and then also
In-person production
having
is the same
great
as virtual
teams.
with longer cables.
With longer cables, yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
way longer cables.
But the key is it is that communication piece, because the fact that we were able to communicate with each other, we understand each other's communication styles.
Yeah.
We understand, you know, where our limits are. And then we're okay with asking, you know, questions, getting clarification, or just saying, is that really the best way for us right now? And us all stepping back and being, you know, humble to be able to say, okay, let's try that. Let's give that a shot.
And being
one of the
okay with
best teams
scrapping
I've
the
ever worked
plan.
with.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
being like, we invested it. We even rented a camera and a lens, and we did. And then we're like, okay, right at the end of our prep day, which was I was like, it'll take us 3 hours to set up. That was adorable. That was an adorable thought.
It was totally adorable.
That was not the reality. But at the very end, it was like, okay, well, let's just test this out, and you've got a gimbal, and let's plug this in, and let's get this microphone. There was so much pivoting that happened, and so much quick on the fly testing and adjustments that we made. So you've got to be flexible. You've got to have multiple backup plans and not have an ego about things switching on the fly. I mean, that's just strong collaboration and leaning on each other. Like, there were times where I was like, oh, I don't know. Okay, you do. Okay, great. Let's do with that. And like, yeah, the teamwork there was unbelievable for sure.
And you know, it's funny. It isn't just, you know, a process of the gear and that too. It's also talent. And I don't mean like us. I mean talent as in the verbal name of the people. For instance, you know, Dan and I, they give us a schedule. And then, you know, this battle is going on at the stage at the opposite side of the stadia. And that battle goes longer because, well, it's a live battle. You're opening packs, things are happening, fans are, you know, getting nuts. And they're like, yo, they're still on the stage and they're still going. We need you guys to stall for a couple of minutes. And because we were able to communicate, right, we had, you know, other people in the way. It's like, well, what can we do to fill this time? And so, you know, our people who were on the stage, we'll give up to like Britty Cakes and Gonzo. They're on the stage and we're like, hey, we need you guys to stretch this sucker out a little bit. So they see friends in the, you know, walking around and they say, come up. And then real quick, we can get them mic'd up, you know, headset, give them the quick little production thing. And there you go. So this is a segment where they're like, hey, I need you guys to stretch this out. And so because of our communication capabilities, because those guys are able to hear us, Daniel has a producer mic that he can talk to them. Was like, okay, we're going to need you to carry this on for a couple of more minutes, So these guys were able to just come up with ideas on the fly. So if Dan them threw a curveball at us, was like, hey, can you do this? We're able to do it. And this is why I always, again, my military training, I guess, but I'm like, yo, the plan is the plan, but you got to know that that sucker is liquid. And if you try to live rigidity on your plan, you will melt. And never panic, because even if we had to go silent for 5 minutes, we could have been like technical difficulties and blame it on us while we pretend until somebody came. But the fact that so many people are like trying to go down this straight line that just does not exist in real life. Yeah, you got to be flexible. You really have to be flexible. So I appreciated not only the communication from the team that the other stage is taking too long, but these guys are coming, but for our talent that we had to be able to just go with the flow and stretch it out a little bit, or tighten it up a little bit, or think on their feet. The whole time they're telling us that they're nervous and they don't know how to do this. We're like, yeah, whatever.
For sure.
Not our problem. Get up there.
They were amazing,
That was
though.
liars.
Yeah.
I
They
think
were
that
freaking
was,
amazing.
liars. I think that was
Yeah.
actually like a couple things there. I think that was probably the biggest learning that I had, and probably for almost all of the talent that were there, because myself and those folks, to a much higher level than I am, certainly are by and large creating at home, are like YouTubers. There's a level of control when you are building and creating, whether it's a live stream or a recorded video. You are able to, you don't have to have that level of communication. You're able to be fully in control of things. You can make the decisions. You're not needing to defend yourself. You're not needing to to communicate with other people, right? And so
Wait, you don't talk to yourself?
I talk to myself a lot, but there's
Okay.
But what I kept saying in my head throughout this entire event, and I can't remember, I think you probably all said this to me at some point, but I was like, don't panic, solve the problem. Don't apologize, solve the problem. Make sure that everyone who is, Dan Norton and Pat and all of the talented people that were on the stage, make sure that they feel as good as possible about it. Solve the problem. Like, it's not about, like, I am the kind of person who's always like, oh shoot, I'm so sorry I did that. This is why I'm such a perfectionist. I'm always kind of trying to control the situation in that way. And this kind of environment does not allow for that. It doesn't matter who did what. It doesn't matter that it happened. It matters that you work together and you solve the problem and you communicate out the new plan. And so I think that was the biggest learning for me. And I found that I have taken that now into even these smaller productions that we do regularly, where it doesn't really matter when the small things happen. It matters about solving the problem, moving along, making sure that everyone feels comfortable and is having a good experience. So I mean, shout out to everyone that was involved on stage, because I think that is hard. Like, if you are a creator who's at home all the time, you're used to being like, no, like my overhead shot looks like this, or I plan on saying this or that, or I don't know what's going to happen if you have me run through these different, hallways and talk to all these different people. And there is a fear and apprehension. And I think the team did a really good job of making every creator feel comfortable, which then allowed them to be their best selves and to be creative and have fun with it.
You know why I think they're so good at that? Because we are I hate the word just, we are creators, and it's not a level of pretension, and which is why no matter how much we preach to people, you really have to let that perfection part go, because they weren't worried about how they're going to look. Because they're creators, they're normal people. They could just be normal. But when you have this, I am a speaker who has this contract with hundreds of they're the ones that panic when something goes wrong and end up looking more foolish. Whereas the person who is just trying to be normal, it's like, yeah, it's normal. This happens, bro. Give me a second, and they just keep going. And I do feel that when I watch we've seen them at bigger shows, Katie, where the keynote speaker has a panic moment on stage because it's not going perfectly. And I'm like, these people love you, want your autograph no matter what you do. You can just stand there and smile. But they legit lose their cookies because, they brought in this famous celebrity comedian and something's not going right and they start having panic attacks. I think our guys were good because they are normal humans. And so again, put your perfection away and just know that people are people, and they're going to love you as long as you're giving them what they need.
I think there's a key too to picking the right people too. I think especially as creators, there's this temptation to want to be the person doing everything or feeling like you have to be the person doing everything. Um, and that's not always the case, right? There is that level then of like figuring out, okay, I could get over myself and it doesn't need to be me. It doesn't need to be Pat too, right? Like, because it could be this is Pat's show essentially, right? He put this together. It could be him like, I should be the featured one on everything. And it's like, well, no, it's not going to work. One, like you're to demand everywhere else, but like putting the right people that are meant for this. So Pat and I spent a lot of time, really making sure we pick the right people that we knew can handle this, can do it. That would be the right people that could do the kind of communication we'd want that wouldn't, they're not people who are necessarily streaming every single day all the time, but they do stream. They've put in the reps, which is important. But also, like you were kind of saying, it's not someone who's like used to kind of being in this. So you're almost like thrown into the fire, which works out better sometimes that way. Cause it's like, I don't know what to expect. I've put in the reps to at least know how to go. But I don't have this, like, this is how I want things done in this kind of a professional, environment kind of thing. So I think that's always been an important thing. Like I'm a behind the scenes producer who's spent time as a creator and everything and had to learn to be okay with not being the person who's on camera, not being the front person, because I could choose the right people who are going to go in these spots and can do the right job. So it's like everyone in the right place is what makes this thing so good and so perfect. Kind of like we're talking about. It's like choosing the right people to do the right jobs, whether that's talent, whether that's producing, running, whatever. Putting those right people in place for the benefit of the audience versus the benefit of yourself
100%
is exactly why you want to do it this way.
Yep. Can I give a shout out to Birthday Cake and Gonzo?
Yeah, right.
I mean, everyone that got involved was absolutely amazing. But like we were like, hey, we need more. You need to do that. Keep going. And like they were just so flexible and willing to jump in. Also, when my kids were on the stream for a little bit, they were just like instant mentors, just lovely, amazing human beings. We're going to be integrating some footage from the two of them into this, but like they just went above and beyond, and they were extremely flexible. And when we needed somebody else, they were just super helpful. So everybody that came and jumped in, there was not one moment where we're like, what do we do with this? Everybody was amazing. But I think the two of them probably spent the most amount of time with us and jumping in. And when we needed somebody on the road, like whatever the task was, they were there for it. And I just wanted to give them a special shout out because they were just unbelievable.
Absolutely amazing.
I think
they were.
really
I
important
think that
to-
comes from Pat.
That leadership.
It does.
Pat
Everything
shines.
comes from the top down, right? Everything's
Yeah.
top down, and I think that's the one important part where, I kind of I'm going to reiterate what Dan was just saying. Is just like it's like the talent. Everybody from the production team to the talent themselves, and everybody from who wasn't even at that live stream session. Everybody understands that what is the result of what we're looking for. We're looking for an awesome experience for the end users, for the viewers, and we all focus towards that. And so we all did no matter what it takes, it's going to happen. So I don't even know how many hours of sleep Dan and the other team's members got, but I don't ever think I recall them closing their eyes at all, let alone blink.
None.
But I mean, that was their goal. It was just to make sure it's the best experience, because I can see the thousands of kids in the faces who were just glowing, and smiling from ear to ear. And that's what this is about. And being the producer for the live stream, watching all the chat comments coming in and looking at how people are saying, oh my gosh, the online experience is giving me this opportunity to see what it's like, to feel what it's like. So it was like they were there, because especially with the Jill's roving camera going through the audience, people loved it. And, so I really appreciate Dan and the team there for creating, first of all, a really good run of show. Like, it was a really good run of show. That's the first thing I appreciate them for. The second thing I appreciate them for is for having grace and flexibility and understanding that, hey, this segment is going really, really well. Let's just keep doing more of that. So there were some couple little things, not major things, but like we kind of didn't do those things. Why? Because it was going really, really well. And then also for having grace and understanding, I think for us, we were like, hey, there's a key sponsor. It's like, we're not showing them enough. What do we do? What do we do? And then Dan and the team are like, okay, no worries. we'll do some more mentions. Okay, great. And so Pat came on more with more airtime and stuff like that, just to ensure that the parties who were financially, involved in this were also getting their airtime. But it was never at one moment, where they were panicking more than us, is at least what I felt. I felt I was probably panicking the most in certain situations.
Properly
but,
panicking. I kind of like that.
Yeah. But I would say,
Remain
overall,
calm,
it's just
solve
like,
the problem. Remain
just,
calm.
yeah, exactly.
That-
Keep
I don't
calm
see
and
any.
keep
I
streaming
don't
on.
see any panicking.
I don't see
You were a
anything,
pro,
Jess.
Daniel.
Yeah, Daniel
Can we
is
talk
really
about
good at
these
this.
cables for a second? Holy cow. Like,
Oh my-
Doc, so initially when we were like thinking all of this through, I was like, I know for a fact that if I put Doc anywhere, Doc can build it. And Doc, you like look at this. It looks crazy, and yet it all like works flawlessly. I mean, I figured there would be like way more troubleshooting in the tech itself, and there really wasn't. Like, there were a few moments here and there, certainly, that always come up, but like we were saying about the
We
roving
have
camera,
to definitely
but
give
holy
some
cow.
love to OBSBot. Okay, because OBSBot made things a lot easier, just the way that the
Yeah.
cameras work and the fact that you can do things like, USB-C power and then work them over NDI, Daniel's favorite word, which we'll definitely talk about. So part of it is that, and part of it is, again, I'm sort of planning for the contingencies, right? We're doing things connected through Ethernet cables, and I brought my own switches. Let me clarify that. So in your house, people watching this, you have a Wi-Fi router, and your Wi-Fi router has like 4 holes to plug actual Ethernet cables in. A switch is one of those that doesn't actually do Wi-Fi. It's just, it can give you more holes. So I brought my own router and my own switches so that we could build our own network. So instead of, say, using Tampa Bay Convention Center Wi-Fi or the oh my God, I forgot the Wi-Fi power company. It wasn't PEP. Anyway, instead
Pop-up
of using
Wi-Fi.
pop-up Wi-Fi, which is phenomenal, by the way, instead of using that, we built one more network. And by being able to build a network that would just basically, okay, Doc and Daniel, don't break anything. You connect all the devices to that. And then that guy can have an internet connection to pop-up Wi-Fi. But when you connect your computers to it, you connect it to that. And then that way you can do NDI without too much, I won't say none, without too much interference from outside things. And so a lot of people don't realize that, but this is the reason why I'm like, yeah, family, you think I'm crazy when I tell you to spend $100 on a portable travel router? I'm not. That thing will save your bacon in a hotel. It will save your bacon whenever you didn't need to build a tiny little network that's just you and nobody else can bother it. And it's really worth it. So that thing came in really clutch. And Daniel's use of NDI for confidence monitors for the people on the stage, for, hey, check out what we're doing on Ecamm so we can make a little, marketing out of it. And some of the other ancillary TVs was just incredible. It was super phenomenal. Funny when the stage guys first set it up, I was like, yo, the TV can't go there, dude. Everybody's going to keep hitting it. No, it's good. Bap, bap, boom.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, we're going to put that on the stage. It was super funny.
that one
That
corner
thing
back
lasted
one.
20
Yeah.
minutes. It landed 20 minutes, and it went bloop right on the ground, and then the guy came and put it on stage. But even like the stage guys, like they were phenomenal. And I've seen those the word is like Freeman and some of those other guys that build things for you, Encore or whatever. I've seen how they react to certain producers, and I've seen how they react to Pat's team. And the way they react to Pat's team is because the way Pat's team reacts to everybody else. There's an era of niceness and forgiveness, and let's make it work. And we're all doing this together. We all must make sure that every part shines. And so even when we had to bring on a person from the crowd who has no idea what's going on, but they still perform like they've got that love from the top down from Pat. So all that is to say in a really small nutshell is I'm forever saying you guys are trying to grow your audience, and I'll be like, no, grow your community. The community vibe showed so strong. Like even when Daniel and I are trying to figure something out, somebody in the back says, hey, I do this at work. Is there any way I can help you? Can I pull a wire? Can I grab something for you? And I'm like, well, I got my hands full of stuff. And dudes that with their kids are like willing to jump in and try to help. And that level of community is the reason why you can do things like this, because you're never really by yourself. So you never like, it's kind of funny for me to say, you're not stuck on the island.
Yeah, there was a great part where we were building things out in terms of scenes, and I, as a producer, I'm like, guys, this might sound a little bit weird, but I have no clue what a card battle is.
Oh yeah.
But it's on the Run with show. And we're like, who do we ask? And I think I said, hey, Jill, can you go ask?
I
kid in
grabbed
the
a kid.
audience?
I saw a kid. I was like, hey, you look like you know what you're doing, because he came in. I think one of his parents was a vendor, so we didn't have an audience there yet. And I was like, you do stuff, and we ended up moving our whole camera placement for those cameras because we needed someone that knew what they were doing, and this kid was perfect. He jumped right up there.
It was also nice that we were so central to everything, and like the stage was kind of right in
Yeah.
the middle of everything, because there were points where, you know, someone like got an incredible card. We're like, we need sleeves. And Dan was like,
Yes.
we got to get some sleeves for someone, and vendors like helped us
The
out.
vendor's
and we were able
right
to-
there. Yeah.
The vendor was right there, which made it so much easier. But I think this particular event, and you know, the fact that it was Pokemon, the fact that it was family friendly, definitely the fact that it was Pat and Dan and your team, like, I made it so much easier. But there was a friendliness and a community aspect that definitely made it feel less of a daunting challenge than if it had been this like super corporate like event where like it felt very polished and put together. I think would have made it feel a lot more stressful. Both events would definitely are high stakes. I'm not saying that it's not, but I think definitely like how people approach it makes it easier to ask for help, makes it easier to problem solve and not panic, you know, in those moments. So I think it goes a long way in that.
We got to give a shout out to Garrett too.
Oh yeah, I know. I was
Yeah.
seeing him
Oh
in the I was
man,
seeing him in
my
some of that,
buddy.
Garrett
Garrett.
and Jess. Jess is keeping everything
Yeah.
together. Like, you know,
Jess.
she got the
all
clipboard.
The Jesses. all
Yo.
the Jesses.
Oh, yeah, all the just.
All the Dans and all the Jesses get all the credit. It was yeah.
Yo, when the clipboards come out and the clipboard people are smiling, then you're doing your job. That's all you need to know. Like, just watch the clipboard people. Mary Lou and I had this joke. We were at NAB and we were trying to go into something, and they're like, "Oh, I don't know if we have the pass for that." She's like, "I'll just get a clipboard and walk in," and like nobody stops you. You just walk in with the clipboard with confidence. You just walk straight in. So
I hear that works with
clipboard
a
people are
ladder
scary.
too. If you carry around a
Yeah.
ladder,
A ladder
people
too,
aren't
right?
asking
Ladder,
questions.
Snatch a ladder, come
Yeah.
through.
Not as
Yeah.
convenient as
You got to
a
look like you
clipboard.
know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And shout out
But yeah,
to
no,
shout out to
Garrett did a
Shure
great
as
job.
well.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh
absolutely.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Sure. Definitely. Yeah.
They gave us all the mics, the headphones, and also some support.
Yeah.
There was we actually had to pivot. We originally had one audio mixer that we were going to use, and I didn't have. So Doc talked about or Jill, we set a certain amount of time to set up, but we actually needed a lot more time. But having a representative from Shure who knows their audio and was trying to get this mixer to work, it was great to have him on board and to be able to troubleshoot that. So that was really good. We had to pivot from the audio anyway, but it still worked out extremely well, just because one is we always had plan B. We always had a plan B, and we had to use it for the audio, which actually still turned out perfectly. And so anyway, shout out to all
Yeah,
of
and
the
it turned out the
support,
device was
the
defective, so it
sponsors,
wasn't
everyone.
even us. Daniel did not break it. It came from the factory broke.
I saw
But
him
did he
touch
touch it?
I looked at it. And
He looked at it and it just
Yeah.
broke. Yeah, we had a few challenges we had to overcome. Jill and I were laughing earlier when we were setting up these scenes that so our designer Marshall, who is an incredible designer, made these backgrounds that you can see here. And we were laughing because Marshall, like the rest of us, we're a team of perfectionists trying to not be perfectionists, but here we are. He went over the in Marshall style and like. I was like, I want them to look awesome. Here's all the card party branding. I want it to feel like really fun. It's Pokemon. So there's a ton of movement and video. And so we get all the way to the event. Daniel and I are going through all the scenes. We're like, wow, like it's just moving really slow. We couldn't figure out like what was going on. Turns out that like all of these backgrounds, all of the video movement was what was it? It was like all 4K files. It was just like gigs and
It
gigs
was
and
almost
gigs and gigs.
18
Those
gigs.
space- Yeah.
Wow.
So that was right from the very start, like an immediate problem we needed to solve. That like we were on the ground trying to build things out, and poor Daniel was staying up like all hours of the night trying to like compress and reduce the size of these files so that they still looked awesome. But it's something that you wouldn't think about if you were like he did everything we asked him to do, right? We're like, we need it to look its best. We need like top quality files. It's got to be a lot of movement and have fun. So like he checked all the boxes. And at no point in that did I think, oh, double check the size of these files.
We're going to be
before,
streaming this
ready
for
to go.
5 hours.
Yeah, we're streaming
Yeah.
5 hours.
That's the thing.
What
It
could go
spins for
wrong?
5 hours.
Yeah.
Shutter encoder and handbrake are your friend. And I have tutorials on the Ecamm channel on how to compress your files using shutter encoder to get them small so that they take up less resources. But that's one of the things where I say, in this particular case, we were doing a master production. But when people are doing these sort of things for their personal productions, I'm like, don't overdo it, because everything you do is adding weight to your production.
Yeah.
It's adding resources that your machine to need. What tends to happen is people with smaller machines oftentimes try to do more elaborate things because they think that elaborate thing is going to give them a certain je ne sais quoi.
That makes sense. That's a mindset. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, there you go. So you're
Like
trying to
overcompensating.
make it look. There you go. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
And you don't have to do that. You are the key.
Yeah.
Right. So even if you showed up with just like we're doing right now in a very simple, plain background with 4 things, you have 4 intelligent people and myself on the screen. So that's the power. Like, it doesn't need another animation or whatever. The animation is beautiful when you can do it, but know that if you're dealing with a smaller resource, that's not the thing. And so a lot of people say, well, hey, how come when I bring in my PowerPoint presentation, the animations are a little ragged? And I'm like, that's because of what the computer is doing at the time. And if your face is there, your PowerPoint doesn't need to go like that. Your face is to go like that.
Yeah.
So you just keep talking and strip it back down to PDF format, basically. And you'll have a much better success. And your audience will still get the information. And they would spend a lot of time connecting with you instead of focusing on the cool whistle that you belled.
Yeah. That's a really good message. Also, there's a lot
it
of
was
things
a
that are
big
like
learning.
nice, not necessary. Like if it's going to take away from your message, like you're saying, Doc, then
Yeah, like ketchup on hot dogs. It's mustard only, people. What's wrong with y'all?
I'm with you on that one.
100%
but I don't want to
disagree.
fight anyone.
100% disagree.
It's New York versus Boston over here.
I love it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, even with Deep Pocket Monster, right? Like we have these videos, these huge videos that take months of editing and all that stuff to put together. Tons of footage. I mean, 14 hours of footage is one of our recent videos, right? We're not recording with crazy DSLRs, getting crazy shots. We're not going in with like pre-scripted moments of like, here, I need you to say this on camera in this way and do all these shots. We're just capturing as much as we can and then do a lot of things afterwards. And we're shooting on, the Osmo Pocket 3s. And it's not, that. And when we started the channel, it was just Pat by himself using a couple of random mismatched phones, like an iPhone 11 and something. All the footage looked like we would have to digitally zoom in because he'd put a wide shot far away and I'd have to zoom into these cars. It'd be like 500x digital zoom. It looks terrible. But these videos got millions of views. Our video with 20 million views on it, that we have terrible shots in there. Really terrible. Like you would look at it and go, oh my gosh, there's no way. You must have like a big production or something. It was Pat by himself with a GoPro strapped to his chest and a couple of iPhones that were all different versions. So they all look different. But you use what you got.
Yeah.
And the more you overcomplicate it, the more complex it's going to get, So then it's better to use what you have, figure out the simple. Pat always says this. He goes, what would this look like if it were easy? That's always his way. When we're trying to figure out something hard, that's his saying to go to. Like if something seems impossible, seems like we can't, instead of complaining about it, it's like, what would this look like if it were simple? That's kind of his key phrase for our team always, with everything. So we kind of take that approach, even with these videos that we do that are huge and take a ton of work. Same thing with this live stream, right? It's like we could come in with the ideas, but then adjust with what we have and say, let's make it work. And no one else will know any better, right? I mean, for the audience at home is going to look at them and be like, oh my gosh, look at how like professional, amazing this was. I can't believe they like had this all planned and prepped and probably was like 2 minutes set up. And, it's like you have this perspective of what that would be. And the same thing happens on major live streams as well. Like this happens on major broadcasts. That was my background, was in broadcast for sports. So it's like those things happen there as well. We just don't know it. And if we're thinking about it, then something else is wrong, because we should be interested in what the content is. And if your viewer is interested in the content, it doesn't matter how you got there. It doesn't matter what adjustment you had to make. And maybe in your mind, it was going to look like this perfect shot with this 4K image and whatever. The audience has no clue. And they're there for the content and enjoying it. And I think across the board, both the talent on the stage and the people who are watching, all enjoyed it. And I think there's a lot of room for improvement and adjustments over time, but especially for the first time doing it like this at Card Party, I couldn't have gone better even with all of the adjustments.
Yeah.
You know what it is? I just thought of something. You don't buy a completed binder. You get an empty binder and you open packs and you add to it and you add to it and you add to it. And I think I'm saying all the right words. Y'all can tell me if I'm crazy. But eventually you end up with a full binder that's the way you want it. So you're right. You can't just expect it to be 100 out of the gate. And I think that is the hardest thing for us to do as small, entrepreneurs or small businesses or creators that are trying to do something awesome. We tend to want to over deliver, and sometimes that can actually cause you to under deliver. So it's best to deliver what you can when you can. Like your mom cannot feed you a steak if there's no steak in the fridge. You know what I mean? I have definitely had wish sandwiches, which is literally just 2 pieces of bread and you wish you had some meat. But hey, that's what mom had at the time, so, and I was never mad at it because it was still, Wonder Bread with some butter. It was off the hook, right? And then one day you get some bologna, and then one day you get some bologna and cheese, lettuce and tomatoes. Oh, here we go. So you're right, start with what you got and deliver. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, this was just, can I just say, like, such a fun experience from start to finish. Huge thanks, Dan, to you and the whole team for including us. I'm still, like, even as we're talking, like, still thinking about all the different learnings that we had from this, like, both, on the ground, in the moment. Exactly what you just said, Doug. Like, I think even in, like, the shows that we're doing on a regular basis, they're, like, you come up with all these, like, clever, fun ideas as you see what happens and as you push the buttons and as you hear what your community is loving and what they're, and what maybe they're not loving. So, like, I think about, like, the original idea of, having this game day stage, and then I don't know whose amazing idea it was to, like, add in the roaming camera, which, like, felt crazy to us because we were like, oh my goodness, like, now it's way more complicated. We need to figure out all the details to make this work. But that was so much fun for the people at home as well as for the people who were doing it, and created this entire, like, FOMO experience that you don't normally get from these kinds of, virtual events. And so I think, like, that, that, like, doubling down on moments like that, which, we did as we were recording it and live streaming it. And I'm sure, next time as we think through the next event, like, that will be a central part of it, just because it was so much fun and did kind of check the box of making this really special FOMO experience. But we wouldn't have known that if we just, like, initially thought about that. Like, it'd be like, oh, okay, like, the initial thought is, like, how do we do this? Like, yeah, and the video quality for something like that doesn't matter as much. What matters is, like, putting up a countdown clock and being like, all right, you have 10 minutes, like, see how many Pokemon cards you can
Daniel
find.
would, like, put up some comments. So, like, we were learning, like, day 2 was just so much more fun because we really got into a groove. And then I was able to say, oh, okay, so-and-so said that you can't find this one. Like, there was that competitiveness. So we were able to bring in those comments that were happening live. And you got 5 seconds. I mean, somebody melted on the ground at some point. It was hilarious. It was so much fun. But then we learned, okay, this is going over well. Let's give more space to this. And we would just adjust things as necessary. But there was a lot that we didn't know going into it. And then it just...
You're bringing the audience with you.
Yeah.
And that's why. And so you guys were so smart in that when you bring the audience with you, you're letting them be a part of it. It's funny. I want to reiterate this because we're showing this shot right now. A lot of people would think that, broadcast would never do something like that because it's not perfect. This year in the Premier League, which is round football, they're putting roving cameras on the referees so that
Mm.
every once in a while they can inject the shot from the referee who's running
So
on
cool.
the field with the camera on his head. And the first 3 games that they did this nationally televised, it looked horrible. But you know what they said? They go, this is going to be good once they work this out, once they
Yep.
figure out the stability. And because the ref, they did the dumb part initially, which they realized is they put it on the head. And the referee's head is like this because he's watching people pinching each other in the box or pulling
Just getting
shirts
motion
or
sick. Everyone's like,
throwing elbows, right? And they're like, okay. So then in the third match, it's on the ref's chest. It looked way better, right? Now, this is a multi-billion-dollar interface, right? Like, this is the Premier League, like one of the richest sports in the planet. And they're willing to take these risks in order to bring you at home on the couch tighter to the stadium. And I think a lot of people would be afraid to do that. Like, oh, it doesn't look good. Well, you don't know it doesn't look good until you try it. And you don't know what your audience is going to say until they give you feedback. So for all we know, an audience member could have sent a tweet and was like, hey, you guys should move it to the referee's chest. We do this in our pickup games in New England. And then next thing you know, NBC has the refs with the camera on the chest. So you have to be willing to take things. And so Jill was very good at, okay, that worked, that didn't work. Let's work this around. Let's make
You
it
guys were really
readjusted.
good in my head because I had not used. I was prepped.
Sorry for the profanity.
No, it was fine. It was fine. It was fine. I expected it. It wasn't. It was fine. No, but like you guys were like pan up or like you guys were giving me directions. And once we got used to, okay, when Jill's live, everybody that's not talking to Jill, flip up your microphone. And so it was really it was really helpful. We got into a really good groove, and even just giving me the heads up on my framing, or at one point Doc's like, oh, your mic's live, and like, figuring out all those things. But it always goes back to the communication and adjusting to what was working. And like, you're in the moment, you can tell when something really magical is happening on a stream. You can tell when there's that moment, and just being able to lean into it was really fun. I mean, the comments were hilarious. I loved that.
Oh,
I mean, we
so
have
hilarious.
to do that. We have to have more time for this moving forward.
Yeah. I can tell you that the concept of the roving cam comes from 2018. I was trying to get out of the broadcast world into the creator economy. And I had volunteered in an event called Vid Summit. And because I had the live streaming background, I was volunteering. So they put me on live streaming. And that year, Daryl was having a 24/5 live stream at the event, where it was a Sony cam on a stick, a little Sony action cam or whatever, on a stick that was going to like a live view in a backpack, and walked all around the event, like all around like the sponsors and all that stuff, talking to everybody. I was just supposed to be his assistant to help him, but then I ended up getting it because he needed to go do things and run the event, right? So for 22 hours, I was hosting this live stream between 2 different days. And the comments, everything was so awesome because everyone was like, I feel like I'm there. Like, this is so cool. Like, people wanting to go to the next year, right? So to me, I've always had that in my head. Now, it was really raw. There wasn't any production to it. It was literally just a camera going nonstop. So I've always had this picture in my mind since 2018, which is why I was like, I want to have a roving experience of Card Party like that. I've always wanted to even do it, even in that raw sense, but this is so much better because it's intentional. It's right. It's not got the boring moments that would happen if you're just kind of roving around, right? So where that's the whole thing. And we could kind of have fun with it. So that's what I was super excited once we saw how we can have fun with those things. You could have an idea in your head of what it could look like, and then you don't really know until you go. So like you've all been talking about like this whole time is, how do we adjust as we see what's working and just do more of that? That's what we've done with Card Party over all these years too, is just we started with an idea and did it, got with the right people to make it a really good first year event, and then figured out what worked really well and what didn't. Just do more of what worked really well and less of what didn't, and then things are still not going to work the next year. You're going to have to find things, you keep refining. So I feel like every year we've refined what works really well and just do more of that. Cut out the things that maybe aren't. And that's where I feel like this year we've been able to take Card Party to a level where people weren't as super exhausted as they had been, because we've removed certain elements of the morning and everything. And then adding in this, now we found another element of, hey, we could do more things that work. So the roving camera, people having fun, doing more of that, what works. And that's why I love having that roaming camera element. I think that that brought people even like we were close in the action on that stage, which was intentional. The planning when we were planning out where the placement of this was, I was like, I need it to be right in the middle of the action. We got to have I want to see the sea of vendors and everyone behind there. I don't want to see a wall.
Yeah.
Because if you see a wall, you're not there, right? Like it's got to be seeing the action in front of you. It's difficult to pull that off, right? Because you got to put it right in the middle. But because we were where we were, just being able to see everything and be kind of surrounded gave opportunity for people to walk up to the stage that maybe wouldn't if it was hidden off, in a corner somewhere where you usually would throw a live streaming thing, would be off in a corner somewhere. And then having that roaming camera really, really brought you into the action. And so, yeah, I was very excited to see that work well, because it's something I've wanted for so long, even before card parties existed, of just having that, because it means something to my history personally of going for my career shift into the creator side of things.
So you're
There was
saying
something
I got
about
job
the
security?
stage.
I got job security. Can I come back
Jill,
to
you're
card
good to
party?
go.
Can I come back?
Yes.
As long as Daniel or
something-
Doc or
something
someone's
about
yelling
the
in my
Dan
stage.
is saying.
that these people are standing on the stage and they're looking at the creators, and at one point Pat was on the stage and there was a dad who was there with his kid, and I was in the side. I had my headphones on and I'm running the clocks, like letting everybody know what's going on stage. And we got a message back from Jill on the Roving that we needed to pull this out for about 5 more minutes so that we can make Coop can make his way back from the other side of the stage. And then I looked at Pat and I gave him a hand signal and pointed to the little kid. And then Pat gave me a hand signal to be like, yeah, like these guys are good at catching on my weird hand signals. And then so I said to the dad, I go, you think he'd be up to going up to the stage? And the little kid looked at the dad like, So I was like, yeah, okay. So I said, okay, hold on, give me 1 second. And then I brought the kid to the side and I said, okay, when you go up there, just put on the headphones and stand next to Pat so we can have you inside the shot. And he had his little book, and just the energy that was coming out of that little kid, I felt like I was 12 again. You know what I mean? Just like, hanging out with my cousins and whatnot. And so we bring the kid to the stage and I come back down and put on my headphones so I can continue doing what I was doing. And the dad just tapped me on the back and he had the tear dripping out of his eye. And I was like, listen, man, I got like thug representation to read. Don't do this to me right here. Like, you know what I mean? Because like I'll start leaking too. I was like, I have a reputation. Like, hold it down, But the way that we were able to make that dad a hero for that kid, that one particular moment, right? And when that kid came down, standing right next to me, and the way he hugged his dad, it was like, Dad, thank you so much. I'm so happy that you let me come.
Yeah.
Like that's the kind of stuff that doesn't really show up in the brochures, as they say. You know what I mean? There was that particular moment. There was another moment very similar to that with a whole family, and they were all into it. And the dad, he's like a truck guy, so he knows nothing. So it's basically the mom and the kids. And Jill had all of them on the stage at the very end. It was one of the last ones. And so one girl, she's like 4, and the next one was like 8, and the next one was like 11 or 12. And there was just a whole little family. And then the dad was holding the baby. And I was like, man, your kids are just amazing. Like they know what they're doing, and they're so well spoken and whatever. And he was country as all get, and he was just like, man, thank you. Like that made my family super happy. I was like, it's not me, it's the whole team, but I appreciate it. And so again, this is why you create content, people. You create content to affect other people and to be a giving situation. And the faster you can get to that and not worry so much about self, everything will be fine. I just want to say that because that's all I ever talk about, and it might sound like a broken record, but I seen 2 grown men cry standing next to me. You know what I mean?
Pokemon.
Like
It's
these
what-
are
it's what
Florida
causes
men
it
too.
all.
Like this is a different game, right? These are not your normal
Yeah.
dudes. These are Florida dudes, and they're crying.
It's
So,
amazing what the littlest things can mean to people that for us mean nothing, right? It's like, oh, whatever. All right, we just need someone on stage. We could easily just been like, no, it's too busy right now. We're gonna stick to our plan and whatever, right? And completely ignore that moment. Same thing comes with content. You're creating your content, whether it's streaming or recorded video, even shorts, right? There could be things where you're just like, "Ugh, whatever, making this thing, getting it out. I don't care, right? But a lot of times you don't ever get to see what it means for the person on the other side that's watching it. And we make entertainment content. So it's kind of like, all right, whatever. It's a big deal. It's Pokemon card content. It's entertainment. It's not really changing the world, right? Yet Pat's received handwritten letters from people who've decided not to make a decision about their life because they saw a Deep Pocket Monster video show up in their feed and they watched it and it changed their mind. We wouldn't know about that. And that's not even what we're trying. We're trying to make something to make some people laugh or have fun. Same thing with this live stream, right? Like we're just trying to help people have fun, get to enjoy the event if they can't be there. Maybe they'll want to come, but even if not, it's just another opportunity for them to enjoy it. And then for the people who are there to have an opportunity or an experience that, man, so many people would look at that and be an experience they'd never even expect to be able to have, right? A kid coming up on a stage like that, for many of us, kind of, we're used to these stages, we're used to these things, used to being a live stream. But for some of them, this is something that they've never experienced and never will, or maybe don't want to pursue YouTube or live streaming or whatever. That moment means so much to them, like as if we got to be on camera at the World Series or something. You know what I mean? Like for me, that would be so cool. You know, if it was like the Mets were in the World Series and getting to be like on camera somewhere, like how cool would that be? So yeah, that's those kind of moments that if we're looking for them or allow ourselves to be open for the opportunity for these moments to happen, you'll see them. It's when you're not looking for them that you completely can ignore things that could have been something. And look at how special that was. And that wasn't even a moment on camera, right? Like, but that moment you guys brought to Card Party, right? So it's not just like, here's what Card Party's doing. It's like, here's what Ecamm got to do for a couple people at Card Party. And it wasn't even something that was on camera. And it wasn't even something that's like Card Party made. It's like you created that opportunity for that. So even crew, the expectations of how you respond even to an event can make people's day. And that's really, really what it's all about.
Absolutely.
Well said.
I'm not crying. You're crying.
I know. Well, on that note, let's do it all again. Let's do it all again a number of times. But if you are watching this video later as we release it, definitely feel free to drop some questions in. We're more than happy to follow up and answer anything you want to know about how to do these kinds of different productions, about Card Party, about all of the cool things that Pat Flynn and Dan Norton and the whole team are doing, because it really is incredible. And I love, Dan, that you kicked this off by saying that like this event intentionally was, you know, you wanted it to feel like camp, because that's entirely what we are, you know, on the mission to do as well. So it's always nice when we get to work with people and with creators who are in the same space as we are. So like I hate to use the word synergy, but there is a synergy between your team and our team. And it does matter in creating these kinds of moments and in making sure that you have people that you can trust and that the entire thing goes as smoothly as possible. So huge thank you to you and the team for involving us. And I don't know, it's been such a fun journey from like the first moment where we were like, Pat's doing a Pokemon channel, to like, hey, Pat's doing this Card Party event. And it was so cool to be there at year one. And then actually kind of cool that we weren't there at year two, because coming back to it at year three and just seeing the difference in what this event has become was staggering. I mean, again, like, congratulations, and what a cool experience from start to finish. So thanks to the team for joining us and for sharing all the details. I love a video debrief. It's been great kind of hearing all these stories again. Like Doc said, I'm just going to keep myself from crying, because it was so many awesome moments from start to finish. So it's exciting to be a part of it.
And the ice cream was incredible.
The ice cream is always a good. Doc and I are entirely into it for the ice cream. We're like all in for a venue that has ice cream. I love it. Well, thank you. Thanks, everyone. And thanks, Jill, for bringing us all together. Yay.
Mahalo.
Thanks.